So the king prepares a feast for his son for his wedding day and invites all these people. The invited guests say they are too busy, that they have more important matters to attend to. And so the king is upset and they pay the price. Check. That seems reasonable. Second, the king invites the people off the street, whether they be good or bad. It's beautiful. The king wants to be inclusive and bring all into the banquet. Check. That checks out. But what about that poor bloke at the end that went into the wedding feast, didn't have a wedding garment? Why was he thrown out? Couldn't the king just have gone to the closet and said, you don't have a wedding garment, here's one for you? That's a good question. For all these other instances, there are checks. Invited guests say no, check. The people off the street invited, check. But what is it about this poor man? And what does it mean for me? Could I be like that man? And I think it's a good question for all of us whenever we hear a parable in the gospel. We have to ask ourselves, could that be me? So, what is it about this man that made him so deserving of being thrown out of the wedding feast with the wailing and gnashing of teeth? When the king approaches him, the man was reduced to silence. He didn't have an answer. So maybe the issue was that the man did not want to change. He did not want to be open to conversion. He may have had the time that was given to be changed and to be converted, to put on a wedding garment, but he did not take that time. Brothers and sisters, we have all been given a time. Our time on earth is not permanent, but we were made for the glory of heaven. St. Therese, whose feast day we celebrated just not that long ago on October 1st, has got the statue of St. Therese right there in the corner, the one with, she's holding the roses and the crucifix. She has this quote, "The world is thy ship and not your home." The world is your ship and not your home. We're all on a destination to heaven. And for us, we have to ask ourselves, are we ready? I'm sure that you have noticed, just as I have, as you drive through the neighborhood of Amherst, Williamsville, that in front lawns, everybody is getting ready for Halloween. And maybe you, in front of your front of the house, have some decorations as well. But there's a lot more skeletons out there, I've noticed. And whenever I pass by those skeletons, I think, how Catholic of them to have skeletons out there. And you're probably asking, how on earth is that Catholic? Well, have you ever seen pictures of saints? And they hold either a skull, they reflect on their own mortality. There's this word, Latin phrase in our Catholic tradition called memento mori, which means remember your death. And this is the church's way of saying YOLO. And you know that YOLO is what you normally yell out before you do something very stupid. You only live once, right? But in this way, memento mori, it's saying that life is worth living and we have to make something beautiful out of it. That life is lived for Christ, a life that is lived for others. Memento mori, remember your death. That we are made for the glory of heaven. Earlier today, I celebrated a baptism, and I love baptisms. It's one of the greatest joys as a priest. And then after the baptism takes place, there's this symbol of the white garment placing over the baby's head, saying, "You have become a new creation. You have clothed yourself in Christ. See in this white garment the outward sign of your Christian dignity. With your family and friends to help you by word and example, bring that dignity unstained into the everlasting life of heaven." And here's the point. By our baptism, we have all been given that white garment. And because we are human, and say YOLO in the wrong ways sometimes, our garment becomes dirty. But we are given graces through the sacraments to be washed clean, through the sacrament of confession. I've noticed that the lines are getting longer here for confession at St. Greg's, and this makes me very, very happy. Sometimes I think about the saints like St. John Vianney or St. Padre Pio, who would be in the confessional for 14 hours in one day. And I ask myself, what would it take for us to get to that point again? For the lines to be that long? St. John Vianney, when he was in Ars in France, it's this tiny little town that was very insignificant. It was a very small, tiny town. But at the time of St. John Vianney, they had to add cars on the trains for the amount of people going to this little town just to go to confession to St. John Vianney. I find that incredible. What will it take for us to also recognize that we too need to have our white garment cleansed and go to confession? And recognizing that, yes, we are sinners and that we have stained our white garment, but by recognizing the grace of Jesus, who has never sinned, washes us clean and gives us second chances over and over again. So today, as we hear this gospel parable, let us not be reduced to silence, who did not have the wedding garment, but instead say, yes, Lord, I'm a sinner. Make me whole. Please provide me a clean wedding garment so that I can celebrate at the wedding feast with love and joy, the wedding feast which we have a taste of here at this Mass today.